We are just thinking out loud. Welcome to another show, everybody. Week 13 finally done. Week 14 is upon us with a huge game coming up in Detroit. Welcome to another edition. My name is Andrew Siciliano, bags under my eyes and hat on my head after a long Monday night in Denver. Actually, more importantly, a quite early flight back to LA on Tuesday morning because that's me. I booked the early flight. Why sleep in and waste your whole day? Just get up and get home. But the result is first world problem. Somebody is tired today and needs more caffeine. Thank you for listening and watching and sharing and subscribing and liking and I don't know, whatever you do on a podcast to somehow send positive vibes. We appreciate all of those positive vibes as we wrap up a highly entertaining but a very long week 13, one that opened at 12:30 Eastern time on Thursday, on Thanksgiving. I mean, just think back now. It almost feels that when you say, hey, well, first of all, you don't say happy Thanksgiving anymore. As we sit here, we tape this on a Tuesday. It almost feels, and I had this on the field Monday night pregame in Denver, like you don't even ask about someone's Thanksgiving. Like even Monday night, it's like, that was a few days ago. There are better small talk conversations to be had at this point. Yet, think about it, 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern time, Thanksgiving morning is when week 13 began, and it didn't wrap up until after midnight Monday night when Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos hung on and beat Jameis Winston and the Browns of Cleveland 41-32. Can't even remember the
9
score.
points.
Yep. Hey, it's the voice of Sam Patesh. Now on camera. Happy Thanksgiving.
You know what? It's so funny you say happy Thanksgiving. I'm that guy. I think I go a little too far in regards to the amount of days I allow happy Thanksgiving.
Well, you're just trying to make a conversation and be friendly.
You know what it is, actually? It's an overly friendly. It's one where I'm trying to let someone know that I'm thankful for them. In other words, I want to add, I don't just want to know how was your dinner and how was the meal and all of that. I'm more into it for I'm thankful, for having you here, for being friends, whatever. I'll usually use it in that context, but way too many days after the fact. I'll extend it into this Tuesday, and it's probably much too much. I think it's unfair.
It's not unfair. It was a great conversation starter on the field before the game on Monday because you're talking to coaches from both teams, and you're asking about the holiday, and you certainly care about the personal and the family side of it, but you're also asking in the context of, hey, like, how have you guys navigated this week getting ready for this game? No, honestly. And everyone does it a little bit differently, but yeah, it is time now to move on from Thanksgiving. I'll give a quick thought here on what Jameis did. 497 yards, utterly amazing. 6 total touchdowns if you include the 2 going the other way. He is fun. He's a blast. He is a roller coaster, and it is a hell of a ride. I think Jameis Winston has proven he is one of the top 32 humans on earth throwing a football right now. He deserves to be a starter somewhere. Don't know where. Somewhere. He's going to be starting football games next year. I love the guy. Love him. Love how he owns it. Loves how he shows leadership. Love how he is accountable. It was a heck of a game. Man, that was fun. And now it's on to Pittsburgh.
One other quick one, by the way, about Jameis. And I just want to say, for those who haven't checked out you and Jameis on the Bark Tank, he is a spectacular. I mean, many people know that he's got an interesting personality, certainly, but
he's fun.
To see him in that context with you, and not to bring up Thanksgiving again, but his top 5 for Thanksgiving items was special. Anyone who hasn't seen that, you must see what Jameis likes most about Thanksgiving. That was entertaining.
It as a blind ranking, which may or not have been the best way to do it, but it's the way we decided to do it, and he was fun. We should have him back doing Christmas plate as well, Christmas dinner rankings. Thanks for the shout out there. It has on the Brown socials a million views on TikTok.
Wow, that's great.
And a million views on IG, just Jameis talking Thanksgiving foods. And that's just that one clip. There's some other ones that were also fantastic because he's a gem. Let me just put it that way, a gem. We'll get to the Browns' next opponent, the Steelers, coming up in a second. Let's hit on Aaron Rodgers real quick here, because Rodgers, for the first time in his career, there was one brief moment in Green Bay a few years ago. There are legitimate questions as to whether or not he should be benched. The Jets lose again. They are 3-9. They blow a 21-0 lead. They lose in spectacular fashion this past Sunday at home to a Geno Smith-led Seahawks team with Mark Sanchez on the call. I mean, Jets worlds colliding, just unreal. Everyone talks about, the Giants and Saquon going somewhere else, and Wink Martindale coaching Michigan on, at least defensively, to a win over Ohio State. The way that the Jets past came full circle Sunday was also quite notable. And Aaron Rodgers, after the game, almost, as he took a lot of the blame and said, there are 11 guys on the field and everyone shares some blame, but sometimes it's on me, and a lot of it was on me today. It almost sounded for the first time as if he wouldn't have minded if he were benched. But today on ESPN, on his Tuesday appearance on Pat McAfee, he made it clear he's healthy and he wants to keep playing, which is the right answer. And I have no doubt that he will keep playing. There's no reason to bench him. He's still Aaron Rodgers. He still does give you the best chance to beat the Miami Dolphins, who are still, despite their loss at Lambeau, fighting for a playoff spot. Despite the fact that the Broncos won and the Chargers won, Miami still has a puncher's chance here. So they're going to face Aaron Rodgers this week. I thought the interesting thing, though, he did say on ESPN today, Sam, was when A.J. Hawk asked him if he wanted to do what Brady and Romo did, and that is go to the booth afterwards. Aaron was completely perturbed at his good buddy and former teammate that he would ask that question on air. AJ, to his credit, gave the stone face and would not break his break character. No, I'm asking you this question. But Aaron said, when I'm done, you'll never see me. Other than playing golf in Lake Tahoe, when I'm done, you will never see me. All the while, they were promoting the new Netflix documentary, which was fascinating because it showed it honestly looked like a clip out of Survivor, like with faces and bodies painted and jungle and bare feet and drum. It looked like a Survivor promo. Like, I thought Jeff Probst was going to walk into the scene at one point. I'll just say this. I don't believe Aaron. And I'm not trying to suggest that he's being dishonest right now. I don't know that somebody who does a weekly television spot because he feels he needs the form, good for him, by the way, to truly speak his mind, can easily just walk away. A lot of us have said, I'm not Aaron Rodgers, but people that are at least somewhat in the public eye, hey, when I'm done, you're never going to hear from me again. It's a lot easier said than done. And I think he's going to miss it being out there and having a form. I don't think when he retires that he just goes away and hides. Matter of fact, I'll bet you that does not happen.
Now, would you think it's more likely that he would? I mean, I don't see him on a staff necessarily. You see him in a booth. You think that or on a panel? No, not at all. Right?
I don't think he's going to do the booth. I believe him when he would do a podcast. He would talk about lost civilizations or underwater aliens, or go on with that Graham guy, whatever, on Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix. Right? If Keanu Reeves can do it, Aaron Rodgers can do it. I think he would do something like that.
Politics as well, right? I mean, certainly his name has been bandied about there also. I would agree that it feels like Rodgers we will still see, although the Netflix series makes you wonder, is he quite as ayahuasca as we think that he is? And if he is, then you could see him off in the sunset. Right. I could see him then on a retreat and just no longer being any part of this. But I also want to reiterate, do we think next season for Rodgers? I mean, do we think there's another one? You and I talked about the fact that it could, we now know he's not going to sit out the rest of the season.
Right.
And so if he plays the rest of this season, and it seems unlikely that he would come back and play for the Jets. Could you, and you've said it, who wants to now jump into the Aaron Rodgers game? But someone will take a bite. Someone's going to take a sniff. Someone's going to have that conversation. I don't know. I see Rodgers wanting a better taste in his mouth. I'm sure.
Totally. And the question is, organizationally, and a lot can change between now and March, which team is going to go, yeah, I want Aaron, the way he played, like you have to take into account how he played last year, but I want everything that comes with it. The constant attention, the constant focus from the national media, and the constant, charting of every throw he makes and over analysis of every sideline cutaway. Like, do you want that? If you think he could play well enough, then yes, bring it on. You haven't seen that, though, this year. And if you talk to Leonard Williams, Big Cat, who had the pick return, the fastest a 300-pound man has ever run, according to NGS, Next Gen Stats, on an NFL field, he said it looks like he's an old guy that doesn't want to get hit anymore, which, by the way, is fine. In other words, if we pressure him, he's just going to, hey, Garrett Wilson should be there, throw to the spot. If he isn't, oh well. Or Devontae, oh well.
That was a hell of a play by Williams. I mean,
of course
it wasn't like he threw it to him. I mean, the fact that it's one hand out there deflecting it to himself, that was an impressive. The first ever pick six in the red zone, I believe, for Aaron Rodgers in his career. I saw that flash up on the screen. Yeah, it was wow.
But it also go ahead.
I was going to say also, though, that statistic tells you, all right, if we're getting first evers in Rodgers' career going that way, maybe it is time to say, okay. And for him, even though I want to say bad taste of this season, who knows? The next through week 18, at this point, now that you know you're not in a playoff race and you're simply playing to want to say that you played the 17 games based on what happened last season, and that was a goal of his, was to stay out there for all 17 games. Maybe by the end, he does feel this was a fitting end. Maybe he does at that point. Maybe there is some silver lining in playing out the string here, doing it well for whatever his standards are. I'm not sure, although I wanted to bring up two people. I've said it before, much like Favre, it looked like it was over for Favre when he was with the Jets, and what a resurgence he had in Minnesota. I know I once said maybe he would go to the Vikings. I'm not necessarily saying it that way. It's got to be the Vikings. I'm just wondering, would there be another chapter there? Could there be? And I think there's two people that you could point to say it looked like it was done and then it wasn't. It would be Favre himself on this path, Packers, Jets, then Vikings, and the Vikings NFC Championship run. Russell Wilson, who I know we're going to talk about a little later also, seemingly done in Denver and then having this next chapter where it did play out the right way.
He's much younger. I mean, 5 years younger, but in quarterback years, 41 to 36, there is a huge difference. Sure, if he could play like Russell Wilson, go for it. I can't believe I'm saying that, but they have to figure that out next year. We could all agree it is not going to be with the Jets. Great transition. Let's go to the Steelers here, who outscored the Bengals. No better way to say it. The positive side of this is Russell Wilson is good. Like everything I said last week after seeing him lose to the Browns, got crazy respect for the guy. He's back. Sure. Does he hold on to the ball too long sometimes? Yeah. Does he think he could run around and do that whirly bird stuff in the pocket and still make all the plays he used to? Yes. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But this offense, if you sprinkle in Justin Fields potentially to end the game on the keeper at the end of the game, this offense has found something it simply has not had. Part of that does have to do with the fact that the Bengals have an historically bad defense. They can't tackle. Their missed tackle numbers are stunning, particularly in division games this year. 2 against the Ravens and 1 now against the Steelers. It is uncomfortable at times. And Russell Wilson and the Steelers and George Pickens took advantage of that. The Bengals, to me, are almost more interesting right now than the Steelers. I realize one's winning and one is losing. But if you looked at Joe Burrow's post-game presser, it was dark. I mean, it was really dark. He said that I have to play at the ultimate peak of my ability for us to win, and conceded that because of that, he sometimes is now taking risks that in years past he wasn't. And Jamar Chase was, in essence, asked, do you feel like you have to score every time you have the ball? That's a very under or low key way of saying your defense can't stop anybody, right? And he kind of shrugged his shoulders, meaning a yes. The Bengals have major issues. The defensive guys that they have drafted have not necessarily paid dividends. Zach Taylor has 2 more years on his contract. It's not the Bengals' way to buy out a coach. Look how long Marvin Lewis was there at the end. I don't know what the Bengals are going to do. They're going to have some very difficult conversations after this season because Burrow is Hall of Fame caliber. I know he's young, still has a lot more to write in his career, a lot more of the story to write. You can't waste it. You can't. I don't know what they are going to do. I know I get to see the Steelers up close again this week. Browns get them for the second time in 3 weeks. Alex Highsmith should be back on the field this time. That's going to feel entirely different. And let me give Sam one last thought here on George Pickens, who did get in the end zone, is going to get fined for punting the ball into the stands, did do the whole I'm just here so I don't get fined act last week. Mike Tomlin said afterwards that Pickens has to grow up. He didn't get fined for tripping Grant Delpit last week or attempting to, but Delpit got fined for pulling his mouthpiece. George Pickens is going to get to the point where he truly does cost his team a game with his shenanigans. And we are dangerously close to that point. I don't think the guy gets it. Tomlin was asked again today, what are your conversations with him? He said, I ain't telling you, basically. We're going to keep that in-house. I don't know if I'm stunned. There's a reason he fell in the draft, but nothing seems to change with the guy.
It was in that game that you got the full Pickens experience because Pickens is on the ground upset about a pass interference call that didn't happen while he's watching the interception go the other way for the pick six.
That happened in Washington too.
Yes. And then on the next drive, it's Pickens on the long touchdown pass from Wilson. So you're sort of getting it, 7 points one way and 7 points the other. It kind of cancels each other out. But that is what Pickens has been. It's the, oh, wow, where's the effort, right? Where's the sort of teammate effort in a play that's obviously going the other way? And he's on the wrong end of it. And then spectacular singular effort on a pass from Wilson getting into the end zone. And there's the guy. And you're thinking, wow, if you could only be that all the time, but he's clearly not that person. And really only 2 other points in regards to that game. Number one, it just simply reminds us what Tomlin did for a team that had Justin Fields and was looking like everything was going right, Andrew, and then going to Russell Wilson. And now this stamps it. This offense is different in a positive way with Russell Wilson. It has been. And he was so right when the world thought, hasn't Fields done enough? What are you doing there? And yet not somehow he's watching the guy. He knew this offense had a higher ceiling with Russell Wilson, and it absolutely does. Because each week we keep saying we don't know how the Steelers are winning, or maybe it's on defense because that's what historically they've done. But in that win over the Bengals, that was an offensive effort. That was a game won on offense with Russ. That was really incredible. And the only other point about Joe Burrow, he's leading the league in passing. His number 1 receiver is leading the league in receiving yards, and they've got 4 wins. That just has to be so incredibly frustrating to know that you're doing your part seemingly, and that even just offensively, the team is doing its part, and yet you're nowhere near as competitive as you need to be. And this is a team that's been in the Super Bowl.
They have lost 4 games this year when scoring 33 points.
It's impossible.
4 games when scoring 33 points. Now, you also have to take that into consideration when you praise how well the Steelers offense worked. because you do have to consider the competition here. Browns Steelers Chapter 2, second time in 3 weeks, is going to be fascinating. I made a point last week, and I'm going to come back and make it again about Bryce Young. The Panthers lost the game. They maintain their draft position. I'm looking it up right now. It's on my screen on a different tab. Right now, the Carolina Panthers are picking 5th at 3-9. There are 4 2-10 teams: Jacksonville, Vegas, the Giants, and the Patriots ahead of them. Sunday was the best of both worlds. There is no such thing as a moral victory here. They forced another team into the fourth quarter, and they came away losing. This time they lost to the Buccaneers. Chuba Hubbard, late fumble, and they fall to the Buccaneers. But Bryce Young was very, very good. I'm not going to say great, but you turn on the game and you go, oh, yeah, I remember that guy from Alabama. Oh, wait, didn't they take him in the draft last year? Wasn't he first overall? I know that guy. Bryce Young can play a little bit. Now, have you decided he is truly your franchise guy moving forward? I don't know, and I don't care. All that matters is he's playing well, and others can see that he is playing well, and you're sitting there with the 5th overall pick. It is a good position to be in. It is a much better position than what you could have been in 5 weeks ago, which is having a top 5 pick and your quarterback being benched and awful. Then everybody knows you need the quarterback and you're desperate. Now, maybe we don't take a quarterback. Maybe we are willing to trade. Maybe somebody wants to take Bryce Young from you and you will take that quarter. My point is, you have endless options now. And on a personal level, I am happy for that young man that things have seemingly, Sam, turned around.
You've been on it. You've been on it for a while. And you and I were both saying it's done for Bryce Young. There was a moment in time where it looked simply like that was it. Andy Dalton, and you were excited. You were actually all over the fact that Carolina was going to beat the Raiders that week. And back then, the Raiders were a different Raiders team. We were thinking they could be something at that point. I believe they had beaten Baltimore already. And you said, watch out for Andy Dalton and the Panthers. You thought that was going to give them a spark, and it certainly did at that time. And it was as if Bryce Young would now just be sort of forgotten and washed away. And with this opportunity, you were noticing, wait, there's something. Then they beat the Saints. It was clear there was something. And even in these losses, the last 2 weeks, obviously the Chiefs game, bringing the Chiefs to the brink, which I know a lot of teams have done this season, but what Bryce did in that game was incredibly impressive. And then in this one, you've been all over it. Tip of the cap to you, because I don't know that there's a lot of Bryce Young conversation, for those that aren't watching as closely, dissecting it necessarily, again, because the Panthers are still losing games. It doesn't seem like it, but you've had an eye towards the fact that this is turning the right way. I want to flip just to the other side of it quickly, because I want to say it. And I don't know, Baker Mayfield's not going to be recognized this season. He's not going to win MVP. He's not up for comeback player of the year. I wish there was another award to give him, Warrior of the Year, whatever it is. Baker Mayfield is so incredibly impressive this season. I hope, and it seems like they will, that the Bucs will make the playoffs. I don't know that they're going to win the division because the Falcons have that tiebreak over them. But Baker Mayfield's I thought he made the second best play of the year in regards to taking Joey Bosa all the way out of bounds and tying the Niners in that game. And what he did to bring the Panthers back, to bring the Bucs back against the Panthers in this game was so impressive. Not only, again, it looked like Bryce Young had won the game. It was seemingly over. It looked like Bryce led a game-winning touchdown drive. And then Baker gets the team into field goal range. And what he did with his feet in overtime was unreal. By the way, on his leg was injured at that point in the game, and he's still running out of bounds. It's just, Baker has shown something. He's obviously shown it for a while, and it firsthand. His most impressive season ever, you could still argue, is the year that he beat the Steelers in the playoffs, that season with the Browns. Yep. That 2020 season. And he also had the Chiefs on the ropes in the divisional round as well. That was unreal. That version of Baker is special, and it's here, and it's not going away. And both of us, a lot of people just assume the Bucs were not going to be the same team this year that they were the year before. And people were saying the Falcons are going to win the division, and they still could, but people thought there would be a regression, and there hasn't been. And only one other point that I wanted to make about Bryce. the throw and the catch, the Thielen one-handed catch
Yeah, it was great.
That's the best catch of the last 3 seasons. I mean, it's clearly the best catch of this season, but this is an one hand when you're never using the other hand to bring the ball in is incredible against the sideline. It's only a shame that the next play was the Chuba fumble, because that should have been a catch that led to a game-winning drive for the Panthers, and instead Chuba fumbles and then it goes the other way. But wow, that catch.
It was phenomenal. I jumped off the couch. I don't know without doing research. I would hesitate to say it's the catch of the year. I would love to see a top 5. Maybe I'll go to TikTok and see someone else's top 5 catches. I'm sure somebody made one. No doubt.
Only because it's not in the end zone, right? I mean,
blind
I think that would be argument
rankings,
against
top
it.
5 catches,
Yeah, sure.
maybe something like that.
You'd have to put it 2, I think, if you were going blind.
Yeah, like where would you put it? Blah, 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 on your forehead there. Look, it was a phenomenal catch. Adam Thielen, who was really the only weapon. Jatavian Sanders wasn't playing. Mingo is in Dallas. Deontay Johnson is dressed but not playing. And by the time this pod drops, might be looking for a job in Baltimore. They traded everybody. All right, it's Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is not running a 4-3 out there, but Adam Thielen is catching everything, including that one. Speaking of the Ravens, when last we spoke, I told you I thought Philly was the better team, but the game was in Baltimore. I don't know how this plays out. I would lean Baltimore. The Eagles were the better team, period, full stop, and are the better team. And while I've been saying all year that I would be stunned if the Lions don't represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, I'll say it again right now. The Eagles are more than good enough to beat them, and they are healthier than the Lions. And a healthy Philadelphia team handled Baltimore this past week. Lamar Jackson, no longer the MVP. Doesn't mean he's not playing well, but he didn't play well necessarily in this game. Had the great one to Mark Andrews in the end zone, but Philadelphia showed it is the better team. Better defense, better run game. Never thought I would say that. And Jalen Hurts played better than Lamar Jackson. Philadelphia is a physical football team. Philadelphia could do quite well in the AFC North. They're in the NFC East, which is a far inferior division. Philadelphia is a good team, and Philadelphia, I think, can go to Detroit. And I know we're getting 6 weeks, 8 weeks ahead of ourselves right now, but definitely give the Lions a fair fight, if not beat them. The Ravens, have they fixed all their defensive issues? No, they're making progress, but they still have way too many liabilities in the secondary. They're not getting the pass rush they thought they would get outside of Kyle Van Noy. And I don't know that I'm sold on their postseason success anymore. I was 2 months ago. I'm not anymore.
Eagles down 9-0 in this game. In years past, that really would have been it. I mean, this really, and yes, we haven't even brought his name up yet, but the Justin Tucker missed extra point. I'm not going to say that's a turning point. I mean, it's
of course it was
10-0 versus 9-0. But if you go back and watch the game, it is the point at which the Eagles come back in that game against the Ravens. A couple of things. Eagles, as impressive as they've been this season, just aren't interested in the first quarter. I don't understand. Offensively, this team has scored 6 points in the first quarter. It's really incredible to watch what they're able to do as the game progresses, which is usually the sign of a great team, that you're better late than you are early. It's just amazing that on first drives, the Eagles can't muster anything this season. It's really quite bizarre to be a team with 10 wins. It's a strange number to look at. I want to give credit. Nick Sirianni gets a lot of heat, and rightfully so. I mean, he's yelling at fans in Cleveland, right? Or after the Cleveland game. I mean, he's an odd cat, as they say. Certainly, Sirianni. Credit here in a little deflected way. The hiring of Fangio and Kellen Moore is the reason this team looks so different. And neither one of them.
Credit Sirianni for that, or credit Sirianni being told to do that?
Perhaps. And what happened last season was a disaster. I really want to make a point between this season and last season, right? I mean, the coordinators last season, that was seemingly the issue. losing Steichen and Gannon off of the Super Bowl roster that 2 years ago, it was ugly last season. Bringing in Matt Patricia. I mean, there was just a lot that really went wrong, and it felt like Sirianni was on the hot seat. There were going to be conversations there, and both coordinators were gone.
Week 5.
Yeah. So Kellen Moore, it wasn't that. I mean, Kellen Moore in Dallas wasn't overly impressive. It wasn't. I don't think that was such an obvious upgrade as offensive coordinator, and it's made a huge difference. And of course, yes, having Saquon Barkley helps. But Fangio, and remember Fangio with the Dolphins last season, there was nothing really to hang your hat on necessarily. Not that anyone was doubting Fangio, but that has clearly made such a difference. And again, one play in this game that just stood out was this play by rookie Cooper DeJean in just stuffing Derrick Henry on a key third down. That was special. And what they've done in regards to drafting and what the rookies have done this season, and second-year players, of course, because defensively, what Jalen Carter has brought to the table. And one guy I just want to say, Zach Bond is sort of this kind of, you knew about it. You studied the Eagles this season and you knew, but what Zach Bond has done, what Fangio has done with Zach Bond this season, that's made a difference. And it's really, as much as it's about Saquon, this is a defensive story now we're seeing with what's happening with the Eagles, the turnaround for this season.
Yeah, they're able to play, Vic Fangio, shell coverage, umbrella coverage, and they're able to stop the run because they have Jalen Carter in the middle of that defensive line. So not everyone can do that. Vic Fangio is going to let you run the ball, let you dink and dunk, but you're not going to score. Right? They're going to take the top off the defense. They're going to make you go underneath. But, well, you can't do that against the Ravens. You can when you have those kinds of defensive tackles, when you have Jalen Carter whipping the guard and dropping the jet sweep 5 yards back behind the line of scrimmage because he's just faster than your guy running the jet sweep, which is absurd. So the Eagles, yeah, they're good. And so too are the Bills. I sit here today with only one thought on the Bills. Yes, Amari Cooper flipping it to Josh Allen is fun, and the whole fantasy thing, and the interview with Melissa and the Snow Angels, all of that, fun TV, very cool. 2 snow games in a matter of days. But the only thing that matters from this game, not that the 49ers season is over with all their injuries, unfortunately for them, the only thing that matters from this game is that I don't have to shovel anyone's driveway. Because I said that if the Niners beat the Bills, I would come shovel your driveway. Your being like the royal you there. I have no idea whose driveway I was going to shovel. And this is not I'm patting myself on the back segment, but really it is. There was no way on God's green earth. It was white, not green, on Sunday in Buffalo that the Niners are going to win that game. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
You were so right, and so often
I'm not. The story isn't that I'm right, but in this regard, the story was that I'm right.
But you were, and so often when we talk about games, when we're previewing games, I'm listening to you throw numbers out and trying to find a way. Oh well, maybe there's a different way to look at that game. And as soon as you spoke about this game for Sunday night, it just took away anything I could possibly say about the Niners. What were you going to say? And then, by the way, and when we spoke about this game, the snow there was a potential, but the blizzard really happened. It was Friday night when we knew that the elements were going to be what they were. It's very rare that the Niners look like a West Coast team. I'm not talking West Coast offense. I'm saying there used to be that moniker that teams from the West traveling east into the elements, that was such a struggle. The Niners have a different personality. With Shanahan, this is the team that usually brings the boom. This is the tough 49ers. That's their role. And yet, wow. And of course, they lost McCaffrey. And of course, they were playing without Trent Williams and without Bosa. But that's as discombobulated as we've seen the Niners in this run with Shanahan. That was as out of sorts as we've seen a 49ers team. And credit to the Bills. Credit to the Bills. They were ready. They were coming off a bye. They were coming off their biggest win of the season in regards to beating the Chiefs. But that was not competitive in any way at any time throughout that game. Dropping passes from Kittle, Debo fumbling, Brock the ball just slipping out of his hands. they were the Bills annihilated the Niners. That was it. I mean, that is all of the air out of that balloon.
And
Completely.
McCaffrey and Mason are, for all intents and purposes, now done for the season. The only way that they would ever really be able to come back, and they're both on injured reserve now. And the Niners just signed Israel Abanikanda, the former Pitt running back and the former Jet. The only way that those two backs come back is if they were to make a deep playoff run, which we all agree after watching that game, they aren't going to make a deep playoff run. And in all likelihood, they're not going to make the playoffs. But anything is really possible in the NFC West with the Cardinals losing again, with the Rams winning. I mean, that division still can be had realistically by any of the four teams in that division. Right now, I would kind of lean towards the Rams, but remember the Cardinals did beat them at least in the first of a scheduled two head-to-heads. So that's it, friends. We are wrapping another edition here of Thinking Out Loud. Week 14's gotta be good. Lions and Packers, what remains of the Lions at home against the Green Bay Packers on Thursday night to open it up on Amazon, on Prime Video. And we'll be back later in the week with another edition here of Thinking Out Loud, perhaps with caffeine next time for more energy and more. What was the line in Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray?
Oh, the Woody Allen, right? It was,
or
no, Coppola, right? Yeah.
No, right, where for relaxing time, Santori time, he wants it with more. The director, he's asking, I'm going to look this up right now.
Do it. It's worth it.
Hold on. Bill Murray, Santori time, more.
Lost in Translation, by the way. The movie.
Yes. He wants it with Lost in Translation. I don't remember. More intensity.
Yes.
With more intensity. We just wasted a minute of everyone's lives.
No, we didn't. No, because other people are thinking of it and giving them the answer is worth it.
Intensity. So the show back next week with more, or later in the week. I don't know. With more intensity. For Sam, I'm Andrew. We're just thinking out loud. Bye.